Okay, well, let's start. Hello, everybody. I'm Charles Grant from the Centre for European Reform. I'm delighted to welcome you to a webinar with Clément Beaune, France's Minister for Europe. He's going to talk about the EU in 2030. We've only got about an hour, unfortunately, but it's great to have him for that time. So I've asked him to keep his opening remarks fairly brief so that we have plenty of time for comments and questions and answers subsequently. The Minister's opening remarks will be on the record and will be recorded, but subsequent Q&A will be off the record. And I believe, Clément, this is not your first time at a CER seminar, because I do remember when you were working for a man called Emmanuel Macron, you came to the CER when he came to the CER, and you were in the audience there. Now you're not in the audience, now you're the speaker. We're very glad to have you as the speaker. And without wasting any more time, why don't you tell us what you think about the EU in 2030? Over to you, Clément.
Thank you very much, Charles, and thank you to the CR for this invitation. Indeed, I've been around in some of your events a couple of times, but I think it's the first time as a speaker, so I'm very glad and honored to have this opportunity. Maybe a few remarks. I would try to, as you said, to keep it short. When we look at what could be or should be the EU in 2030, I think we can have a look at what has happened during this incredible COVID crisis to feel or to analyze the strengths and also the weaknesses, obviously, of the EU in this type of period. When we look at what happened, I will be, of course, not too long on this, since February, March 2020, for a year now, at the EU level. I think what we did quite well was to provide a response in the areas in which the EU had some tools at its disposal to act, and in the areas where the EU had sometimes failed in the past, drawing lessons from this crisis. Of course, I think about the economic response. We may have debate about how fast, how important, how significant it is, or how well coordinated. But I think when you look at this, it's one of the areas of success of the EU in comparison, in particular, with what had happened 10 to 12 years before in the economic crisis, financial crisis, and sovereign debt crisis we had to face. In a few days, beginning of March 2020, the EU decided to suspend the rules, which were quite taboo until then, and which needed to be suspended during the crisis, competition rules or fiscal rules. On the monetary level, it provided a very, very strong response in two different moments mid-March. But I think the rapidity and the strength of the answer provided by the European Central Bank was very good in this crisis. And the big topic, which was fiscal solidarity, and the budgetary pillar of this economic response, which has always been, as we know, the weak link of the EU, has been addressed, I think, quite quickly and quite successfully. I don't want to go too much into the details of it because you know that, but in March last year, exactly a year ago now, we had a very, very fierce debate within the EU about what we needed to do. Do we need a recovery plan at all? Do we need this common debt, which was totally taboo at this moment? We had a very tense discussion, very difficult moment. We went through it via a French-German agreement in May 2020, and then a unanimous 27 member states approved recovery plan of 750 billion euro, a lot of it being based on grants, and this whole plan being based on common debt, agreed in July 2020. So in 2 to 4 months, we had a complete package agreed. So I think if you look, again, we can then go back to it, but if you look at the economic response, I think it was appropriate, quick enough, which is, I will come back to that, always a difficulty of the EU to act quickly. And I think the main reason why we were able to do so is because there was a toolbox of course, monetary policy, but also because we had debates over and over in the previous years, an ability to sync the budgetary and the fiscal response. When you look at the health crisis itself, here it's much more difficult Why? Because it needs a level of coordination in a club like the EU, which is extremely difficult. And we see sometimes even within member states, think about federal member states, for instance, or decentralized, highly decentralized member states, how difficult it is sometimes to have a national coordination. So of course, at the EU level, when it's needed, about borders, about free movements, about procedures, about tests. Now, if we have a vaccine certificate or a sanitary certificate in the months to come, how to organize it, all this is extremely difficult, frankly, at the EU level, because we don't have any tool. We didn't have initially any tool to do so. So it's a lesson I draw from this is that not just to say simply we need more EU, I think it would be too simplistic, but there's no key area in which we can, I think, for France, for Germany, for all member states now, spare parts, an element of EU response. Doesn't mean that health policy should become, I don't believe this 1 second, EU policy for France, Germany, and all others. I don't believe that. It would be crazy. There's no support for this, there's no necessity for this. But when you get such a crisis, health becomes a common challenge and you need an element of common response. So I think it's a lesson for the future. We should leave this debate about subsidiarity, the list of competencies and so on. This is about EU 2030 in particular. We should focus on the key challenges we will have to face to try to anticipate and to give us, at least for crisis moments, the tools we need to react. One, which is very fiercely attacked now in the public debate in the EU, but I think which is useful and will prove good, I'm convinced, is a common acquisition of vaccine. We have a lot of difficulties, we may go back to that, in the EU at the moment about vaccine, but I don't think that any of these issues would be better addressed through a national framework, a French one or German one or whatever. So we have a lot of improvements to be made, but we understand that in some areas, when the EU is deprived of any means to act, we have a big issue. I will move now to growing lessons, in particular from this crisis and previous crisis, we should do for the coming years. And basically, if you allow me, I think there are two ways to approach this projection into 2030. One is to try to identify the list of areas or topics in which we need to work together to do better at the EU level. I will mention a few, but I think this is probably not the most interesting, if I may say, way to approach it. If you ask me a French perspective on this, I would probably refer to the Sorbonne speech that President Macron delivered nearly 4 years ago now, not because it's our Bible, but because I think the challenges that were listed, President Macron saying we need to do more at the EU level in different manners in all of these key areas are still valid. I would add probably health as a key priority for the years to come because it will stay there. But I think these 5 to 6 areas are probably still the relevant challenges we have to work more on. Climate, digital, defense, migration, our budgetary and economic framework are probably, if I have to limit myself to 5, the key areas in which we still need in the years to come, and it will take at least a decade to do more at the European level. I could go into details of some proposals to feed in this discussion and to say on defense or on climate what we should do at the EU level, in my opinion. But I think the boxes we need to take with us are probably these ones. And we made progress, I think, since 2017, when we issued the first French proposals on this, but defense being a good example. But I think this remains valid. What I think more difficult and probably more interesting as well is to see the angles or the types of approach we need to develop at the EU level to deliver on these challenges, on these areas. And I think there are, when I thought about the discussion, there are 4 keywords I wanted to mention this morning and to open our discussion. Power, dependency or independency, speed, and differentiation. I think all these keywords, these 4 pillars, if I may put it like that, are absolutely essential, and there are strong weaknesses of the EU at the moment if we want to be up to speed, up to these challenges in the coming years. Power, I would not go too, I will not be too long on this. It's because I think, Charles probably knows this idea I have about it, that the EU has been built, even when it was not called the EU in the 50s, it was built as a non-power. It was an anti-power construction because we had the feeling in Europe at this moment for the 6 founding member states in Western Europe and the continent in particular, that we needed to overcome our conflicts, never again, and we had to get, if I may put it this way, vaccinated against power, because Europe had not been able to use it abroad, externally, colonies and so on, and it had not been able to deal with it internally, leading to world wars, which were mainly European wars, First World War, Second World War, and I mean the dramatic consequences we all know. And the idea was to reconcile, starting with France and Germany mainly, but not at all to create the kind of power pretending, willing to have a foreign policy, an international dimension. So the only element that was allowed to think as an external element in EU policies or in European community policies at the time was probably trade, because it was directly related to the economic project, and it was seen as the only nice way to project power externally. And in a way which was just about openness. You are allowed to have an external policy if it's limited to trade, if it's limited to signing concluded trade agreements, lowering tariffs, and so on. Openness. Competition, openness, being nice to each other, reconciling, no power at all, no defense, no foreign policy. Not being tough with partners if necessary, even in foreign policy, even in trade policy, and so on. So this was the DNA, the software. Now we have to reinvent. I will not be too long, I just mentioned it. Power plus cooperation, which has never been done in probably recent or even less recent European history. Cooperation plus power at the same time. We have never managed to do it, I think, all together. This is the huge challenge of the EU in the years to come. Dependency, I will just mention a few words on this, because we've seen it in the crisis. There's no power and ability to be strong if you are too highly dependent in key areas. Key areas are not static or stable. Sometimes it's about producing masks or to be able to produce or to invent vaccine. Of course, as long as you are not able, at least in tough moments, in crisis moments, to deliver yourself or to protect strategic interests, strategic sectors, there's no way you can have a sustainable solidarity. Just said it this morning again on French TV, on French radio, sorry. Of course, what we see in the EU at the moment, where countries are buying Russian vaccine, Chinese vaccine, talking to Israel to get more doses quickly and so on. Why is that? Because it's very difficult to say to EU countries, you will stay together if we are not able together to deliver quickly. So as long as you're dependent, and then we have to define the areas of independency and the level of independency, because no country or no continent is fully closed or autonomous, of course, but we have to have this strategic thinking at the EU level for the years to come. The two final elements I want to touch upon this morning are speed and differentiation, as I mentioned. Speed, because that's, I think, the key problem of the EU. We have been able sometimes, I think the recovery plan is a good example, to deliver, avoiding the criticism of being too little too late, of doing too little too late, as we have faced in the previous economic crisis. But structurally, Europe is now about usually getting in the right direction too slowly. And structurally, because we are slow. We are a democracy of democracies. We are a club of countries. As the UK has left recently, it knows how the EU functions. It's sometimes a big difficulty. I think the Brexit negotiation was interesting in this respect, because for the first time we have realized concretely that we were able, even in challenging moments, to stay united and to be strong at the same time, but not very quick. And I think this element of speed is absolutely crucial. Not talking only about vaccination, but it is an example, a topical example. It's absolutely crucial in the overall competition we will have to face globally in the years to come, whether it's industry, whether it's technology, whether it's digital, whether it's climate transformation and transition, whether it's health, if we have new pandemics in the years to come. That's actually, I don't want to open this nasty debate, but that's the bet, the gamble of Brexit, to say we will be alone outside the big club, but we will be quicker. I don't think it will be like that. I may be wrong, but on the EU side, I'm sure that we need, Brexit or not Brexit, to be extremely vigilant and better on this, because we are still too slow to decide, to make compromises or to make real decisions and so on. What we discovered in the crisis is that when the situation was really urgent, we were able to deliver. But now we have to make it an element of our day-to-day functioning, which is not the case yet. Final thing, I've been too long already, is differentiation, and I think it's related to speed. There's no way a club of 27, that's actually never been the case, but we should accept it, will deliver and work on all these challenges, climate, 5G, everything, being totally homogeneous, same speed, all together. I think there's no way we can do it. We should accept it. It doesn't mean we have to reinvent differentiation. It doesn't mean that there is a first category, a second category, a third category, and so on. No country is happy to play in a second league, but it should be open. So it should be open to everyone, but we should accept that we can start projects, digital taxation, maybe even climate ambition and so on, with a smaller group of countries. And what we see in our history is that when you do like this, you do something that you will never do waiting all the others to start. And in a very short moment afterwards, you attract the others. Schengen was like this, Euro was like this, even EU itself was like this. So I think we should not be shy about differentiating more our clubs. There's no way a club of 27 can work quickly, efficiently, waiting in all areas, all the member states. So that's why I make a linkage with the speed element. Speed, differentiation, power, dependency or independency are for me the four elements we need to work on to make a powerful and useful EU in 2030. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you very much, Clément, for covering so much ground in not too much time. We're now switching to the off-the-record mode of conversing. I'm going to